Hello and welcome everyone back to the Backmarkers F1 Show. I'm Chris, joined by Tyler and Shaker. We are the Backmarkers F1 Show, and this episode number 85, we are reacting and recapping the 2020 Styrian Grand Prix, round number 2 from Austria. And we had a good couple of weeks in Austria. I know that this race wasn't as exciting or entertaining as the first one, but still plenty of things to talk about. A lot of incidents and a lot of things that we'll be carrying on into Hungary that are some good talking points. So let's see where we can start really from the race. I wanted to maybe just talk initially about the Saturday, the qualifying session, because that was probably the most entertaining part of the weekend.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. Wet and wild, you could say.
Yes, it was.
The extreme wets came out, and it was a lot of fun to watch the qualifying, just to see the different teams adjust and try to get their temps into their tires. And we saw some teams struggle with that, and we saw some teams really get the temps in. And Lewis Hamilton pulled the absolute, Lewis Hamilton performance really to get pulled by, what was it, 1.2, 1.3 seconds?
1.2 over max, yeah.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous to be. That's ridiculous. So, he was a masterclass in the wet in qualifying, which really led him to being pretty comfortable in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. 1.4 seconds faster than his teammate, although Bottas was saying he had some sort of a brake issue, so that kind of contributed to his pace so far behind Hamilton. But yeah, nonetheless, it was a lot of fun too, and just seeing guys like Nicholas Latifi and George Russell put out some really good runs. Latifi put in some really quick laps in Q1 as well. Narrowly missed out on Q2 actually because of the yellow flags and then obviously the red flags. So it was a good session for him, but just seeing so many qualifying laps, which we don't normally see. It's usually only 2 or 3 hot laps maybe at the most. So that was a lot of fun, man. And yeah, like we just mentioned, George Russell qualified P12, got bumped up P11. Pretty impressive. Highest grid slot that he's ever achieved in F1. So
yeah, it was a nice treat for Williams to be able to participate in Q2. Usually they're out in Q1 early lunch, but the lunch had to wait because Russell was out doing some magic in the wet. So maybe he could be pretty handy in the wet as well for Williams if we get a wet race down the line this season. George Russell now has some pretty good experience in the wet in that Williams and can show that he has some pace to run with the midfields.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just looking at the qualifying time. So you had Vettel, who was P10, obviously just the cutoff for Q3. He set let me just make sure that this is the right one. So in Q1, he had we were talking about Q2, right? 1:19.5 was Vettel's time to get into Q3. George Russell in 12th, 1:19.6.
Yeah.
So just about a 10th in it, and he would have bumped out the Ferrari for Q3.
Exactly. No, and could you imagine that? Both Ferraris missing because George Russell pipped them both at the line to knock both Ferraris out into Williams. It would have been fantastic storytelling, but obviously it didn't really accumulate for Russell in the race. Unfortunately, still had the Williams pace, which showed better pace than what it did maybe last year, and they were keeping up with the Haas. As I found in this race, Latifi and Russell were trying to just tailing, couldn't find enough pace to pass the Haas cars, but an all right race for them. They can kind of learn on that and move forward.
Yeah, Russell tried to make a move on Magnussen, and he got out into the gravel there. I think it was turn 5, so he kind of messed up his race from then on, and yeah, they really couldn't. They struggled more in the race, definitely, than they did in qualifying, but now that we move over to a higher downforce circuit like Hungary, I'm interested to see where they're going to be, sort of pace-wise. But still, I think for Williams, I mean, it's a massive step forward from last year for the first 2 races of the year, so I think they can be pretty happy with that. Now just moving on to race day. We were talking before the air. It was last 5 laps were probably the most entertaining. First couple of laps obviously was a lot of fun, and then after that it just kind of got a little bit dull, a little bit boring. We're not complaining though. I mean, we sat out for months without any Formula One races, so I mean, it is what it is. It's going to happen. But lap 1, obviously, the big talking point was Ferrari, and they brought upgrades. We talked about this in the podcast last week. And we're like, we wonder what it's going to do. And I mean, that upgrade on Vettel's car in the rear wing was a nice one, wasn't it?
It was.
Literally, it took some weight away from the car.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So improvement that wise.
I wonder if it's going to be legal because I felt like it was almost touching the asphalt. So I don't know what regulation that is, how low you can have your rear wing. But
Sergio Perez actually tried the opposite thing, but in the front of his car.
Yeah, race. That's right. Yeah, it didn't work though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Ferrari didn't really have much pace in the wet. They seemed like this whole downforce upgrade didn't do much. They ended up in the same sort of grid slot as they did last week in Austria. Well, in Austria, same racetrack. But it didn't seem like they were going to do too much with it. And then we didn't really get to see its potential in the race. So who knows now? We're going to Hungary and seeing if that downforce package will help there. They'll need the downforce in Hungary, so.
It looked good for 2 corners.
It did. It looked good for 2 corners.
And I got to say, Leclerc's Ferrari looked pretty good on the back of Vettel's car. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement, right? That was Charles Leclerc's
Absolutely.
fault.
Oh, for sure.
There's no disputing that.
Even he knows.
Yeah, he does know. So
The downforce was so good that he thought he could sneak through there.
true.
So, must have been that good.
Ferrari's new upgrade is the rear wing reduction system. That's what they were using this week. So
Yeah, no, I mean, Charles felt pretty bad, obviously, and you could tell in his post-race interviews and everything, he was beating up on himself, but mistakes happen.
Yeah,
And now
for
it's
sure.
1 for 1. Vettel wrecked him in Brazil, and now he wrecked Vettel in Austria. So we're 1 for 1.
who gets the next one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was terrible though, man. And they canceled all the press briefings or press conference afterwards. Everybody was just like, yeah, you know what, go home. There's not really much that you can say after that. It was pretty clumsy from Leclerc to send that on the inside, especially on lap 1. But it's not looking good for Ferrari. And I mean, at the end of the day, they kind of deserve what they get, really, just how bad that they are. And everybody knows, if you've been watching the show, that I am a Ferrari fan. If I had to pick somebody I would want to win the championship, it would be Vettel in a Ferrari. But I can't deny the fact just how awful they are. And the fact that they've gotten worse, I don't even know how that's possible. Same regulations, not many changes for next year, so I can't imagine that it's going to get much better. They might claw themselves back to like best of the rest at least, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe at this point, maybe it's just focus all your resources to 2022 and try and really make your step there and have a championship winning. At least try to have a championship winning car.
Yeah, I guess it hasn't worked out though. In 2014, the last time they had a massive regulation change, it went terribly too. So I don't know. Do they need to fire some people? Do they need a complete culture shift in Maranello? Something needs to happen, because there's no way that it's all on the drivers. You can't blame the drivers at this point. And when you have a 4-time world champion, when you have a guy like Alonso as well, who wasn't able to win anything with them, any championships with them, it kind of, the common denominator ends up always being the team. So at what point are you going to stop blaming the drivers and go after what the hell the team's doing?
Well, if every Ferrari engine on the grid isn't getting any points, kind of
That
says
too.
something.
That's true.
Yeah. And especially, right? Like it's pretty clear that it's an illegal engine, or it was in the last year. So
Yeah, my buddy just learned last week, actually just yesterday, that Ferrari was using an illegal engine, and he did not believe me. So, yeah, he didn't believe me until I sent the article over, and I'm like, yeah, so they were cheating. I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, that's racing in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're always pushing the limits, and yeah, sometimes it backfires. And in this case, it backfired, and now it's really sewered Ferrari, and they're gonna have a tough time trying to come back from this one.
Well, Renault was trying to get at
Racing, yeah, I
Racing
guess we
Point
can move
now.
on to that topic.
Yeah, good segue there. More protests coming from, we had Red Bull last week, and now it's Renault and Racing Point. And I made this point, too, that these guys have history. If you guys remember last year in Japan when Racing Point protested Renault's brake bias system, which they ended up winning. Renault ended up losing a chunk of points, which really affected the constructor standings at the end of the season. So what do you guys think? I mean, I read into it a little bit, and you have on one hand Racing Point saying, this is ignorant from Renault's side. They don't really know what they're talking about. We're going to be good. And then you have some people that are like, well, you know what? The Racing Point could really be in trouble here. So
I thought they copied their car exactly from Mercedes.
Here's the thing. First, I want to mention friend of the show, Chris Medland, on his Twitter, coming up with the full-on decision. Renault are protesting the front and rear brake ducts, and they have been sealed and impounded by the FIA, and there will be a full hearing as well. So that is a huge factor as well of what exactly Renault is protesting against the Racing Points. But see, this is the thing that boggles my mind on why they're protesting. There's already a big say going on about Racing Point copying Mercedes' complete look, and as you know, many pictures as Racing Point took, they still can't exactly carbon copy it because that's not allowed.
Right.
So they presented their car, and they presented the 2019 Mercedes car to the FIA and said, here are the two designs. Here is exactly how these are not the same. And the FIA passed it. So in my mind, why is there a protest? It's already been passed by the FIA.
That's exactly the point I was getting to as well. I was like, if they've already brought this forward to the FIA, and FIA has been aware of this since they started testing back in February.
Yeah, and probably even earlier when they were designing it, right? Obviously, we know these cars are built way in advance, so it is a good point, and it's what I thought too when I was getting my 5 thoughts down after the race yesterday, and I said most likely that this protest will end up like Red Bull's DAS protest because you're not going to put that much development into something that you're not 100% sure is legal.
Yeah.
And like you said, Shaker, I'm sure they would have went to the FIA and said, hey, like this is what we're doing. It's a little controversial and it's a little on the edge, but is it within the rules?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why would you go to such lengths to complete a completely illegal car and know full well that the teams are going to protest because they've happened many times before and then run the risk of I don't even know what would happen. Like, would they have to completely rebuild the car?
I don't know how they would.
Yeah. And I think
that question.
Renault's situation last year was a little bit different because that was like almost the later half of last year. And in that one race, that situation happened where, Renault was protesting Racing Point's entire car from the beginning of the season. So
and both of them as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But it is pretty serious because they are going to seize parts from both Mercedes, so the 2019 Mercedes and the Racing Point from this year. Now, here's one thing that made me a little bit more nervous for Racing Point's sake. I heard a former F1 engineer, and I forget his name. His name slips my mind. If you know who I'm talking about, maybe just drop it in the comments below so we can shout him out. He said that one of the things, though, is that the brake ducts are very complex. So it would be very difficult to carbon copy those brake ducts just from pictures because of the way that it's built. A lot of the detail comes internally. So it would be next to impossible to be able to just, copy something off of the photo, which is a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great point. It leads to the whole discussion of like, everything was presented. I don't understand how this could still be a thing. But, I mean, unless Renault have now superior evidence that wasn't available before that we saw Red Bull give Lewis Hamilton a penalty. I mean, there was that situation as well this year. So that could be a thing as where Renault now have this I don't know how they would get the technological advance to be able to find this carbon copy. But anyways, we'll see what happens with it. The FIA is going to have to be pretty quick with it this week. And knowing our luck, news will come out the day after this podcast is recorded. Guaranteed. And this will be all null and void. But if it is found illegal, Racing Point have to figure out some new brake ducts in 3 days.
Yeah, and it might just not be the brake ducts, might be also some other parts of the car, depending how thorough this investigation is. And just for clarification, too, it was before to the 2020 regulations, you could actually pretty much purchase parts from different teams. I mean, we know Haas did that when they came into the sport. So it's a new regulation. Otherwise, I think Racing Point would be okay. So this is where the whole clarification comes in. But who knows? Maybe Racing Point, maybe Renault knows something that we don't. Maybe this is just sort of sour grapes from Renault. They're seeing their team is struggling again a little bit this year and are behind Racing Point and are now just trying to sort of throw up a last-second attempt to...
Car is pacer than last year, though.
For Renault?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ocon had great pace in qualifying. Ricardo as well. In the race, a little bit struggled. Obviously, Ocon had to retire. Big question with Renault always is reliability, so that's another topic.
And I think they were saying that the big concern for them this year is engine overheating issues. So.
Yeah, and it's clear. I mean, I think Ocon retired last week as well.
Yeah. Same issue. I think Daniel Ricciardo was out last week too.
Or sorry, I think they swapped, didn't they? It was Ricciardo last week. And
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Let us know what you think about the whole Renault protest situation, and what do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is in the right? Who is in the wrong? Obviously, Racing Point, even though in the first 2 races they haven't had necessarily the results, the car is pretty damn quick.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Disappointing again if they had a lot of trouble cooling the tires in qualifying, and that's why we saw Racing Point qualify so bad. Which, I mean, what could they have done if they were higher up in the grid?
Oh my God.
Knowing the pace that they had. I mean, they came from, where were they qualify? 18th and
Perez 17th and Stroll 12th.
12th, yeah. So, you have Perez went from 17th all the way to 6th. I mean, if he would have started in the top 6, could he have challenged Hamilton? I mean, they were matching for a while, lap to lap, fastest lap of the race. And then Norris came in, of course, once. Or so was it Sainz?
Sainz,
Sainz,
yep.
sorry. He's pitted and got new tires. But no, Perez and Hamilton were swapping fastest lap here and there. So it was pretty impressive from Sergio Perez.
Yeah, and you're completely right, because it was Red Bull and Mercedes were making that comment too, that, look, like, even though Mercedes won the first 2 races of the season, Racing Point is a threat to everybody.
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
like you said, they were lapping like even quicker at certain times. So it's like, yeah, if they can qualify in the top 5, what could they have done to put the pressure on Mercedes, right?
Sure, could you mind just clicking the fastest laps there on our screen?
Yes, for sure.
I just want to see. So fastest lap went to Sainz. Perez had the 4th fastest lap of 107.1. We're not counting Sainz because he pit for fresh tires, and so did Verstappen pit as well? Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
So Hamilton, 106.7 for Hamilton compared to Perez's 107.1. Yes, there's still 0.4 of a difference there, but it shows that Perez was kind of right there with pace, and so was Lando Norris, of course.
Yeah. No, I think that they're in a really good position, and that's what I'm saying. If the car is legal, which I hope that it is, because to be honest with you, I don't really care all that much of how Racing Point went about building their car, because if it means that we're going to get a little bit more competition, and if that a smaller team is going to be able to compete regularly for podiums and maybe even wins,
It's fair game in my mind.
I'm all for it. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
And, I mean, look at Ferrari, right? They copied the 2019 Williams. Mercedes copied the 2019. I mean, right?
worked out well.
Everybody's doing it. So
This might be really smart from Racing Point as well to not focus as much on 2020 and 2021, and just kind of take that general, not carbon copy, but idea of the 2019 Mercedes and maybe put all their resources into 2022 when they rebrand. Well, they're rebranding next year to Aston Martin.
That's
right.
right.
So there'll be a full new team. It'll be interesting to see maybe if that's a good shout for Racing Point to then make a big push to be one of the top teams that comes out of nowhere, because Mercedes did it. They were good, but when the whole regulation changed, that's when they took over. I mean, they were still a top 4 team at that point in 2013, winning races here and there. So could be maybe it's Racing Point's turn.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we certainly hope so. And if you're Aston Martin coming over and Racing Point is found legal and they end up having a good season, your first season as a rebranded team is going to be positive if they can finish like top 4, maybe even top 3.
I just hope they keep some pink livery, like
You
a little
think so?
strand of pink. I just want to keep a little bit.
Well, it's an interesting point, though, because if they do keep the sponsorship, BWT, the water company, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, because will Aston Martin want to completely infuse their brand into it, or is it going to have to stay with the title sponsor? So
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but
That'll be fun.
yeah.
It should be really interesting to see what happens. We might have 3 silver cars on the grid next year.
Oh,
possibly, yeah.
yeah. Unless Mercedes stay at their
Say the black.
The black livery
Yeah.
looks really
looks
nice.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does
Yeah.
look really good, I do have to say. But yeah, who knows what might happen next year.
Yeah, so a lot of drama happening on and off the track, which is good. Gives us a lot of things to talk about. Now, before we move on to the rest of the stuff in the race, because we were on Renault, we want to talk about the breaking news that happened a couple days ago, which was Fernando Alonso officially announced as Renault's driver alongside Esteban Ocon for 2021. We briefly touched on this in last week's podcast. We were thinking who could the potentially new driver would be. And I think there was really no doubt in the end that it would be Fernando Alonso. I know Hülkenberg's name was thrown around. The F2 driver, Zhao, who was obviously a Renault Academy driver, was thrown around. So I posed a question on Twitter, and I'm going to pose it to you guys as well. What do we think? Do we think that Fernando Alonso coming back to F1, is it good or bad for the sport, or is it just kind of indifferent in the middle?
I mean, Fernando Alonso in the sport is never a bad thing. He's always interesting to watch. He's always got some good reactions. He's got some good racing, and especially with the way that Renault are now, I think it's a good time for Alonso to enter and put some of his own thoughts into the team and make it his own. He's got Ocon, who's half his age almost.
Yeah,
it's true.
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
to help him out. So I think it's a good fit for sure. And he's won championships there. So
yeah, I completely agree with you, and so do the people on Twitter. I posted the poll, and 75% of people said that it was good for the sport. And yeah, I mean, how could it not be? Anytime you're going to bring one of the best racing drivers in the history of not just F1, but of racing in general into the sport, I think it's a very good positive. Now, is he going to have a car in which he'll be able to fight the likes of Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton or...
Well, that's been Renault's hope, right? Is to build a race-winning car for 2021. That was their goal. Now it's the whole regulation change, so maybe they'll push that back to 2022. But if that's how Renault want to build their team, and they have winning success with Alonso, and they weren't a race-winning team when Alonso joined, and then they rallied together and won 2 world championships together back to back. I mean, it was a fairy tale story. I mean, could they do it again? Maybe if the partnership is right. But Renault will have to make sure that they don't let Fernando do what Fernando did to McLaren, and completely take control of that organization, and really, not I wouldn't say he was the dictator of McLaren, because there's a lot of voices there, but that's what it seemed like from the outside. We weren't there, we don't know what was going on in the McLaren garage or anything, but from the outside, that's kind of what it seemed like.
Yeah, well, you pretty much could call it Fernando McLonzo at one point, But yeah, I mean, his voice. I don't know. I don't know how much pull he had, but it seemed like he had a lot with Zach Brown there, especially. And I mean, if you remember Boulier when he was with the team, it almost seemed like it was Alonso's decision to whether he wanted to get rid of some of the personnel there. So it depends how many people are left over from the Renault days of 2005 and 2006 as well. I mean, I know a couple of people are still working there, worked with Fernando Alonso, so maybe the environment there at Renault is a little bit easier. They know how to deal with Alonso better than McLaren knew how to deal with him. I'm not sure, but it's good that he's back in F1, and I think that for Renault, they're sort of in a desperate position where ever since they returned to F1, they haven't been able to build a car that's been competitive, and bringing in a superstar like Alonso is going to be great for them. It's going to be great commercially. They're going to be able to pull a lot about the nostalgia, about the multiple-time world championships. At the end of the day, you're going to have one of the most popular racing drivers in the world driving for your team. So if your car is shit, commercially it's still good, and it justifies them staying in F1 with the big Renault bosses. So at the end of the day, that might be why ultimately Alonso was the decision.
I also thought I read something that saw Valtteri Bottas signed for 2021.
He did.
Yeah,
he did officially.
Confirmed. He did officially for one more year.
Okay, I wasn't sure because it's not on the Wikipedia.
No,
Wikipedia,
it's not.
But
I don't think Mercedes wanted to go with anybody else.
And Hamilton's not signed for next year yet, is he?
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Well, I mean, that will happen because there's no seats available. I guess he could go to Red Bull.
Yeah, sure.
You don't think he wins and retires?
I don't think he retires yet. I think he wants to get at least. He wants 2 more. He wants to not tie. He wants to have the outright.
Yeah, he wants 8.
I think he wants 8. But no, I wasn't sure if Valtteri, if that was confirmed or not, or what was going on there. I thought I saw something. So that's good for Valtteri. He's back in the sport for next year. That's what I thought he would do. He would win this year, Valtteri, and retire. But no, he's good. He's happy where he is.
He's still good though. I mean, Rosberg had the contract right and ended up retiring. So.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
But I think he'll stick around for another couple of years. But it's nice for him.
Valtteri isn't that old, is he?
No, I think he's still in his early 30s.
I thought he was like 35.
But it'll be good for him.
Wikipedia open. I can also.
It'll be good for him in terms of being able to battle for the championship, knowing he's secure. Give him a lot more confidence for sure.
He's 30 years old.
30. Oh yeah, he's got
I was
plenty of
gonna
time.
say he's not that old.
He's young.
Well, even
He's a
Lewis
young
is
stud.
33.
Yeah, Lewis is older.
So Lewis is not that much older. I mean, Vettel is around the same age as well. And this pretty much all but confirms that Vettel won't be able to get the Mercedes seat. Obviously, we don't know what happens with Hamilton, but
He goes to Red Bull. Vettel over to Mercedes. Start the rumors now.
there's a lot of rumors going on, man,
There.
that the Red Bull CEO, they want to bring Sebastian home.
I could see that as well.
I could see that as well. That's
him and Max going at it.
Or maybe he goes to AlphaTauri, bring it home, right? That's the first team
That's
he drove
true. That's
for.
the first team. Yeah.
I know Christian Horner denied it on the broadcast, I think, when it was free practice. But he doesn't own Red Bull.
Yeah, and also Christian Horner very tight-lipped.
Christian Horner would never say anything that's going to upset Max Verstappen.
True. Yeah.
That's his prize driver. There's no way.
Yeah.
All right, let's go down that road, though. Do you think that partnership of Vettel and Verstappen could work?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it would provide a lot of competition between the two, but they also have a lot of respect for each other at the same time.
Yeah.
I think the big thing here is that we see how Max doesn't have someone, and this is no discredit to Alex Albon because he's fantastic and he's still very young.
He is a good driver. Yes.
He is a very good
driver for sure. Yes.
But he's just not fast enough in that Red Bull, and he needs someone just to have that little extra edge to not only help push Verstappen, but to help them in a fight. I mean, we saw Verstappen stuck in in a Mercedes sandwich there, and it ended up beating him. That's just what happened. And where if they have another Red Bull helping that fight a little bit, you can play. Maybe it's a 1-2. It's a Mercedes Red Bull in the end.
Well, it kind of felt like that's what the strategy for Red Bull was for this last race. Was they knew they had a secured podium pretty much with Max, and they needed Albon there to provide that support, and it just didn't happen. I think 20 laps in, he was 25 seconds behind or something.
Yeah.
So he definitely needs that secondary driver. And on what you were saying, I was actually just going to mention this Max's defending in that last 10 to 15 laps really showed how of a mature driver he is compared to the last 2 years.
Well, we forget he's been in the sport 6 years.
So for so long.
He's amazing.
He's just, I mean, fantastic defending in the last 10 to 15 laps. And I think with both Vettel and Verstappen on the team, I think they can make it work for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think they do actually like each other a lot because even though Max is 21, 22, he's very old school.
Yeah.
He's an old school racer, and I think that he's kind of got an old school mentality, and that's why he likes Vettel as well. Because think about all the times that they've come together on track. Remember last year in Silverstone as well, they went right and saw each other right after the race, and they have this mutual understanding and respect. It's not a bad blood like you sometimes see these drivers who get into incidents with each other.
For sure, and I think part of it comes from Vettel being that Red Bull young driver and knowing that Max is coming up through, AlphaTauri now, and then as well going into Red Bull. He's been that guy, He's been through that exact same situation, and he knows what kind of pressure he's in as well. So, yeah, for sure, I definitely see that partnership working.
It definitely could. It would be tricky to manage if Red Bull had the car, but even right now, it's again, I agree. No disrespect to Alex Albon, but it's just Max is at such a high level. He needs another driver that's at that level. Mm-hmm. It's like when you look at Red Bull when they dominated, they had Sebastian and Mark Webber. And Mark Webber was at that level. He wasn't a Sebastian Vettel, but I think that Mark Webber was world championship material.
Mark Webber should have won a world championship.
Should have won a world championship in 2010.
That bothers me.
It bothers me too, yeah. But Alex Albon, he isn't there right now. And I think he's miles away from being a world championship driver, although I think the potential is there. So in this era, when you're fighting a team like Mercedes, I completely agree. You do need those two cars. So I think that if the opportunity arises, you might want to take the risk of potentially coming together sometimes on track for the sake of having two cars that could be able to fight for wins themselves. Because Max has been alone now for 2 seasons almost since Ricciardo left. And it's hurt Red Bull in a lot of races. Strategy is compromised now because they've only got one car.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hopefully that's something that you can kind of fix next season, and the driver's market is there. Albon's not signed, so who knows what could happen. It could be a signed situation where he's loaned to who knows.
Yeah, it's so complicated, yeah. But it would be such a shame to see Vettel just run out of options and have to retire. Hopefully he doesn't retire permanently. I know that he still wants to race. And I know that he's got a lot of love for the Red Bull team, and Red Bull loves him. They're constantly in communication.
They won 4 world championships together. How can he not, right?
And he's so sick of the Ferrari environment, and he wants the efficient, UK way of working instead of the discombobulated Italian factory that's going on over there. So I'm sure that he's dying to go back to a well-oiled machine, which was Red Bull. So very interesting. It's big decisions ahead for Vettel. But, if the Red Bull CEO is and the guys at the front office who are, leading the whole company, if they want him, then they can get him. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's It's always silly season, eh? There's never like an. I was talking to some friends, and they thought this would be a great idea if F1 did what a lot of major sports teams do, where you can't sign a free agent until a certain day. So, like, say you can't sign a free agent until January 1st.
Yeah.
And then all the free agents, either sign or that's when talks start and everything like that. I mean, that'd be wild if you just had a 48-hour period of knowing where everyone's going. But I guess at the same time, this leads to constant speculation throughout the season. So there you got your pros and cons either way.
I would like that though, like a trade deadline almost, or a signing deadline.
Free agent frenzy is what they call it in the NHL.
Yeah, I'd like
so
that.
You could call that as well, I guess.
Yeah, it would make for like a really dramatic, 24 or 48 hours, whatever it is. But I guess it would almost stop the season-long speculation.
That's right. So it's pros and cons for everything.
There's both sides to it, yeah, for sure. Okay, getting back to the Styrian Grand Prix. Not many other notes really, but I wanted to talk about Lando Norris again because I thought he stole the show again.
It's just last lap genius. I think that's what he is.
Yeah.
Or last 3 laps or whatever it was. I mean, he was P8 on lap 68 and
P69 is when they put in scenario 7.
Scenario 7.
Scenario 7.
Uh-oh. That's not good. But anyways, he gained 3 places, ended up P5.
Yeah.
Really well done from Lando. Another fantastic drive.
Yeah. It was a very mature drive, too. He just sort of sat back there and just waited for it to all unfold. Just very well done. And, I mean, if it wasn't for the whole mix-up, I don't think he would have gotten it. But just great on him for just waiting it out there and just, just sending it.
I think he could tell something was going to happen.
Yeah.
He was like, he smelled blood in the water and raced phenomenally.
For sure. And I think, it comes down to, Daniel Ricciardo's not giving up a spot and, Lance Stroll is going for the spot. So he just had to wait it out in that corner.
That's true.
Yeah.
You didn't like Lance Stroll's overtaking, did you?
I wasn't going to talk about it, but I was not impressed.
I thought it was clean.
That's hilarious.
I thought it was clean.
Did you see the team radio?
Clean overtake.
I just watched it before I came in here. He's like, so he overtook him, and I don't know if it was right then and there he said it, but he got on the radio. He's like, man, that was really hard to overtake. And the comments were like, yeah, so that's why you like bottled him off the track.
No, I don't know. I thought it was a racing incident. I didn't see any issue with it. Good hard racing.
No.
Verstappen did the same thing to Charles Leclerc, not like last year, and it wasn't an issue.
Charles Leclerc wasn't that off the course, though.
Yeah, he was. He was completely.
And Lance Stroll was almost completely off the course as well.
So was Max. It's the same thing.
No,
it's the same
think it was
thing.
different.
Same thing.
I'm with Tyler. I think it was racing incident.
I'm not claiming the fact that it was a racing incident or what. I just didn't like it. That's not arguing that with you guys.
That's fair. That's fair.
I just didn't like it.
You didn't like
That was probably Stroll's like only F1 overtake, and you just didn't like it.
I just didn't like it, bro. Like, it was not about it.
But you know what? He made it on Ricciardo, so I think Ricciardo has to expect that.
Ricciardo did let his guard down as well.
He did.
I don't think he was expecting Lance to send it in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, like Lance might have licked the stamp, but descending it was, it was standard shipping.
Exactly.
It wasn't express.
It got there, and that's all that matters. It got there clean.
The box was a little beat up, and
but it's still good. But everything inside's all right.
Hey, I mean, you finished 7th, so
yeah, that's
at the end of the day.
And we're talking about Lando Norris. Don't look now. He is, what is that? 15?
Are you looking for?
How many points is he behind the
43 minus 26? My math is terrible.
That's hard math. People were getting roasted for this. Wow.
And I went to a Catholic school too.
I know. I was supposed to be good at math.
Guys, I got this. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's easy to look. Okay.
So
17
carry
points.
the 1.
17? Is that right?
Yeah, you're right.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
What are you trying to
I don't want
figure
to look
out?
like idiot.
You know what? I'm just going to compare Hamilton and Norris because that's easier.
I knew I was right. It's fine.
That's just a joke.
It's all good. I was right.
Of course we know how to do math.
Norris, only 17 points behind Bottas for the Drivers' Championship. It could happen.
That's what you were trying to figure out.
That's
I thought you were trying to figure out how many points he got into each race. I was like,
no,
man.
No, I wasn't. I was just trying to be silly.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways.
Only 11 points back of a 6-time world champion.
That's right.
Yep.
He is 26 points ahead of a 4-time world champion.
That's pretty crazy.
If you think of it, I mean,
he's not even in the top 10. I got to load another page.
Oh, sorry, 25 points. Vettel has 1 point. I forgot he had a point.
Wow, that's crazy. Even Max too, 15 points only. Yeah, it's the championship.
Well, Max wasn't even classified last race, so
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
he's finally entered the world championship.
progress.
It's progress, yeah. And Haas is in there too. Look, they have 0
So
points.
does that
Good for them.
mean Vettel and Charles Leclerc didn't qualify?
No, they wouldn't have classified in that race.
Classified, sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
neither would Ocon.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
I think it's a percentage you have to complete.
Yeah. And just on Perez, I was just scrolling through his name. Man, he loves commentating on his own moves, doesn't he?
I know, that was great. Great radio.
Did you like that one, man?
He's like, yes, I did. No, I like Sergio on the radio is always fun.
Yeah. I feel so bad for him that he nicked the front wing. He almost took out. Have you been seeing these memes that have been going on? It's like he almost took out Alex Albon in the exact same corner.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like Albon's worst nightmare. It's like the silver Mercedes, the black Mercedes, and the pink Mercedes. Like he's almost been taken out by all of them.
I know Perez maybe deserved a P4 there, but was just a tad too aggressive, unfortunately, and ended up imagine Albon.
Oh my God, that kid
poor
would have had a
Alex.
meltdown.
Poor Alex. Good thing it wasn't too serious a contact.
Yeah, there's a couple of them though. Like I think who was it, Kvyat and I can't remember who he touched with, but it was right in the first corner. It might have been Stroll. Yeah, maybe one of the racing points. But yeah, they touched rear wheels and Kvyat almost lost it.
Oh.
We had a lot of those even in the first race as well, and they didn't end up in any punctures or anything. So
I don't remember off the top of my head.
yeah. Anything else from the race? Were we missing any incidents or anything? Any points of contention?
Oh, I did want to again our good friend of the show, Chris Medlin.
Okay.
Did tweet out this great stat, and it was I don't even have him up, anyways. But only one time, or sorry, was it 2 years ago? You can just click on his name.
There he is.
Yeah, he's right there. Look at that. Which one is it? This one right here. I generally feel for team members this season. A triple header in 2018 was vowed to never be repeated as it was too tough on them. It's still tough, but they've accepted it, of course. And now they have to do 3 triple headers in a row, which sounds crazy. But yeah, so this is the last third of the first triple header. And then they'll be taking, is it a week or 2 weeks off? Week?
I think it's only a week.
I think it's only a week off. And they go Great Britain twice, and then Monza.
I think Belgium and then Monza.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have it right here, boys. I
do you?
keep on
Oh, it's
zoning out
great.
here.
No, oh yeah.
Hungary, 2.
Oh no.
Oh, Spain.
Spain.
Right.
Yeah, it's Hungary,
So-
2 in Britain, and then Spain.
All right, and then another triple header, which is Belgium, Italy, and it's going to be the Mugello circuit, I
Yeah.
believe, for the
There,
first
yeah.
time ever. That's another news that
Yeah.
popped up this week.
Yeah, and
Mugello
apparently
circuit.
and
first
apparently
time.
that track is like
It's beautiful.
it's
track.
hard. Yeah, and it's a hard track too
It is.
physically. So I'm
That'll be
looking
a lot
forward
of
to
fun.
that.
Yeah, I think it's Ferrari's test facility.
I think they own it. Yeah, that's what I've
Yeah.
been heard. But I think it's a common MotoGP track, but they've never done F1 around there.
No, I've only done some Forza around there.
Yeah, good track.
It's fun. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know. After that, they haven't really confirmed any races, but Canada's not looking as hopeful as it did a couple of weeks ago. They said maybe October, but now they're looking like that's going to get scrapped. And looking at a Bahrain doubleheader, finishing in Abu Dhabi. Still might go to China, so we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
I wonder if they could do China, Japan, South Korea. South Korea has a really nice circuit.
Yeah, Japan's off the table now.
Is it?
Yep.
Officially?
Yep.
I wonder if they could do South Korea because
like that
they
track.
have a really nice track there.
Yeah, it was a great track.
And there's no South Korean drivers, but I think they could get. It could be a lot of fun at that track.
Yeah.
If they do an Asian stint. Is Singapore still in the mix? Or are they out?
They're out as well.
They're out. India does have a racetrack. Turkey has a racetrack they could always go do. And like I said, you go to that Portugal, Spain
think
region, there's about 1,000 tracks they could go
Yeah.
to. So
I think India's also out of the table.
are they?
Yeah.
I guess they're spiking right now.
Yeah,
aren't they?
3rd highest right now.
Yeah, they're probably out.
And I think that track is they gone bankrupt there for
Oh,
a
did they?
couple of years. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, since
probably
Force India left, there's no real racing.
Oh yeah, I guess.
So.
Well, I was looking it up not too long ago, all the Grade 1 tracks or whatever. So, but there's like 2 in there's a bunch, 2 in Portugal and like 4 in Spain they could go to.
Yeah, I
a whole
think
bunch.
The Portugal one, Portimao, was like looking likely that might get added on as well, similar to the way Mugello did. So.
I'd like to see Jerez come back.
Yeah,
in Spain. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. Anyways, they could make a whole bunch work if they just keep it in a little core area. There's lots of tracks they could do, and it's not a lot of traveling for everyone, and they can still pump out races.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've already got 2 done. Hopefully,
it's not like they have to approve fans in all these different places. Like,
no, it should be okay.
Yeah.
And we got 10 so far, so looking like they'll maybe be able
15?
to get anywhere 12 to 15. Yeah, I think so.
Let us know in the comments down below. This will be our fan question. What track you would like to see F1 race at this year that wasn't originally on the calendar? So a new circuit that would be added for this year. It could be a historic track in Jerez, or it could be a new track. Let us know which one do you guys think F1 should race at.
Yeah, absolutely. And let us know any thoughts you had from the Styrian Grand Prix. Whether you disagreed with any of our analysis or you agree, drop any thoughts you got in the comments below. And we appreciate all the love and all the support. And we'd like to hear from all of you.
Is Germany off the table?
Germany's another one I forgot about.
Yeah, because they weren't even on the calendar this year.
Yeah.
And I know that they were being thrown around. I think that they're still on the table.
There's so many options in Germany.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Hockenheim is looking likely.
Yeah. Most likely. But yeah, there's a lot of options.
Yeah. I mean, Hockenheim's ready, right?
Yeah.
They had a race last year.
Exactly.
So, yeah. There you go. Ton of racetracks
Yeah,
up in the world.
There's a lot of options. Yeah.
Good thinking.
How about Bowmanville racetrack?
We got one up in Calabogie here.
We have a very... It's a nice track.
It's all right, yeah.
But definitely not F1's
Actually, you
quality.
might be driving it at the end of this month.
Oh, yeah? Taking the Golf?
They have an option where you could rent it's mostly Mustangs, but I think they have like a exotic car option, but I'm also don't know how much that costs and what they mean by exotic car.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look into it.
Did you know you could rent exotic cars here in Ottawa?
Yeah.
For like $500-$600 a day?
Yeah. It's unfortunate because like there's also, is it Turo or whatever, like the app that you can rent stuff on? There's like nothing.
Yeah.
There's like nothing on there for where we are. But yeah, there's actually quite a lot of them. Like in almost every part of Ottawa, there's like one like major company that does the rentals.
If any F1 brands are listening and would like to send us a sports car,
a McLaren.
That Post Malone actually bought his Lamborghini from here.
Did he?
Really?
Yeah.
Did he get
well, in Gatineau, but that counts.
Same thing.
That's how desperate we are.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, next time we go do a shoot somewhere, we'll rent a McLaren or a Ferrari. Just pull up in one of those.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Make us look pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? All right, boys. I think that does it for episode 85.
Yeah.
So we got Hungary coming up this week. We got our power rankings again coming out in the coming days. And then this is the third of the triple header. So after that, we'll get a little bit of a break. And then, we'll just keep going with the races. And it's nice. It's nice to be back and nice to have some races on the schedule to look forward to and to be able to do this. So
lots of stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
It's always good. All right, as usual, we appreciate everybody for following along. If you haven't already done so and you like what you're seeing, subscribe to us, like this video, share it with your friends and family, and we'll be back soon in a couple of days talking about the Hungarian Grand Prix. Until then, it's bye for now.